All right, so dude, is that the same angle that you always? What's going on, dude?
We had a minor meltdown. You see, it's just a case of Microsoft decided it needed my computer more than I did right now.
Well, I'm
So it
not.
started with a technical issue.
Yeah.
First, you couldn't hear me on my microphone. So I'm unplugging and plugging in everything. And then we say, you know what? I might have to reboot the computer. So I went to reboot the computer. Please do not turn off your computer. Now installing update 1 of 4.
Do you want to know?
45 minutes ago.
Do you want to know why I know that you're a ball of nerves or stressed, at least perceived? Huh?
Why?
Because you have a Las Vegas casino smoke cloud above your your, your head.
Hey, you know what? I've got the window right in front of me, and I just put my arm in front of the camera, but that's okay. Hi, y'all. Other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
Wow, that's a bad one.
Too soon?
Yeah, it's been only like 100 and something years, almost 200 years.
Yeah, well, you know, life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. So, but yeah, here I am finally. Sorry for the delay, folks. It was unavoidable. Thank you, Bill Gates. Love you. Mean it.
Well, I did write in very different places that sorry folks, little internet gremlins have attached themselves to Mark Lindsay's headset and he is now doing battle. And that's all over the internet everywhere I link this to. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, let's call it a draw.
yeah.
I didn't win. So it just kind of happened. So, and to add insult to injury, I just got a notification that the Trampled Underfoot podcast is live.
Oh well. That's
I'm
good
gonna have
news.
to. I gotta go catch that show, man. Those guys are good.
I think so. I mean, they talk about life, the universe, and everything.
Really. Well, thank you to everybody here in the chat for being patient. Those of you who have Windows devices, the struggle is real.
Oh no, I totally right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
And go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead because you're blowing off steam.
No, I was going to try to throw in a Mac zinger, then I thought, nah, not right now.
Well, I was going to mention that we on this podcast we tackle a few subjects and a lot of subjects, but there's a lot of pop culture, history, music, strange and weird occurrences, facts, a lot of nostalgia as well. A lot of the things that growing up we saw in our respective generations and all over the board, and that kind of makes it interesting. We also have this portion that we do, which is this day in history, and I don't know if you have anything up your sleeve with this day in history today.
Oh, I've got a couple of them. I've got a few, but we'll get into that a little bit later on.
Oh, okay. I was sort of making that as the cue for you to.
Oh, that was going to be the segue into it.
Well, yeah, I mean, pretty darn obvious, and just so that you relieve a little bit of that tension, and we get a little bit of that. Yeah.
Okay. So you want to go straight for that then? We can go straight for that then. That's cool.
Because I have something a little bit. So I guess before we do that, I just want to say that I do have something I want to go over to get your thoughts on. And it's to do with the whole social media thing and YouTube. And I'm going to lay something heavy on you. And so I want you to sort of like vent out this day in history, because that just water, it just sheds all the, because I was probably even more stressed than you, because it's like, Mark, you went freaking missing. MIA.
I was AWOL, man.
Yeah, man.
Well, the struggle is real. And we've been on for what? We've been on for about, 5 minutes, would you say? Something like that, 6 minutes?
Yep.
The computer just restarted over there.
Oh.
So, you know, and I'm going to apologize here for anybody watching or anybody listening that I'm on Wi-Fi. So if I start sounding like Darth Vader, Go Robot, or something like that, that's why. So,
All right.
but yeah, we do all kinds of goofy stuff like that. We talk music history. We talk real life history. We talk, oh boy, you name it. We get into the good, the bad, the ugly. We sometimes get into heavy topics. We sometimes try to keep it as light as possible. Just depends on the mood. And it depends on all y'all out there too.
Yeah, just last week or the week before last, we were talking about icons, musical guitarists, and we had a little bit of a back and forth on Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix. So that was that, and then we'll go into really obscure, strange facts, mysterious things that are found across the world. Just so many things. But I want to throw something a little bit left field that we don't ever talk about after
Okay.
the this day in history, unless you want to do it the other way around. I don't know.
Well, we can do this any direction you want to go. You want to start with history first, then go to music, or you want to start with music first and then go to history?
Well, let's see what
It's entirely up to you.
We'll give 10 seconds to see who first writes it. So, do we do the heavy duty or do we do this day in history? Let's see what they say. First one to say it is the way we go. Let's see how quickly they reply.
No pressure.
No pressure. First one that
No
says
pressure. It's all up to you out in the chat.
Yeah. This day in history, or what's the other one? Or the heavy stuff.
Heavy first, according to Steve Nealon.
Oh,
Steve Nealon with Harnell Media, webmaster to the stars, and evidently the only person paying attention.
Thanks a lot, Steve. I wanted to go the other way. Okay, so we'll do that.
You're a fast typer, Steve, and nobody can take that away from you.
I'm telling you, dude. So here's the thing. So for a long time, and I don't usually go into it, especially on this podcast, but if we talk behind the scenes, I always felt like, man, why is it that, and there's a lot of reasons for it. So I'm not narrow-minded in the probabilities of different, possibilities. But I'm like, well, YouTube seems to have a stranglehold, hold you back sort of thing for certain channels. And I think that sometimes, and then I think to myself, I saw a big change occur back in 2017, 2018. And this has to do with that and an article that came out that I want to share with you. But your initial thoughts on that?
I knew with this new CEO, YouTube's new CEO, that some things were going to come down the pike, that were going to be some changes just by the way she talked.
Right.
And they have come right out and openly related what you're fixing to talk about. Yes, I said fixing to, for those of you down south. And yeah, I do know what you're going to get into, and I do have some opinions, but I'll let you go. I'll let you break it to them gently.
Okay, so I'm just going to read this out and then see what your reaction is, because this is not from me. This is a recap of a longer article, but there's a lot to chew on there. Okay, so Alphabet is the company that encompasses Google, YouTube, and other things in a big umbrella. So YouTube belongs to them, and so does Google's and all that. So this is the write-up, or at least the bits that I have here of a longer article. So Alphabet has more than 70 billion in market cap wiped out, and it's blaming YouTube, right? So in the first quarter of 2018, Google began making changes to YouTube's algorithms designed to stop harmful content from appearing in the feed of recommended videos that we see on the side page. So the goal was to make it harder to find videos full of conspiracy theories, fake news, and all other, things that sent advertising fleeing from the platform. But here's the kicker. And there's a lot to digest in that, but here's the kicker. But all those garbage videos, now they use that word. One man's garbage is another one's castle.
Right.
So
one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. But they're putting that as garbage. Well, here's what they say. If you read between the lines on this, but all of those garbage videos kept engagement high, and it kept YouTube users tuned in to their feeds beyond that initial video that they came to watch. So that video grabbed them, and they continued on their journey that initiated them into long sessions of viewing. They call that garbage. So even though, so here's what they say, that even the users that turned into the feed beyond that, so even if the company said that they only make up less than 1% of all videos on the site, those trash videos, and YouTube was incentivizing to keep its algorithms pumping junk, what they call junk, to the top of people's feeds. But that's because the algorithm was basically, well, this is what people like, let them eat cake. Well, they changed that up, and it was a devastating thing. So it was reported on Bloomberg and so on earlier this month. It showed that for years, YouTube executives ignored the warnings from their own employees, and just all that created what we have now, a 70 billion hit on its market cap. And it's like investors punished, it says here, the company on Monday for vaporizing more than that amount, 70 billion. So that's the gist of it. There's a lot to digest there, but that's the heavy stuff that I wanted to share.
Yeah. Yeah. And make no mistake, $70 billion is not a number that you can wrap your head around. Okay. $1 million is not something that you can wrap your head around. But $1 billion is 1,000 million.
That's insane, dude.
They lost 70 of those in market capital, is market cap. And that is money value to the company. The entire company, Alphabet, that owns Google, that owns AdSense, that owns YouTube, YouTube Premium, YouTube TV, a whole bunch of things. They got their fingers in a lot of different irons and a lot of different fires.
Yeah.
But that's a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
And then the investors, as you say, punished them by selling off stock.
Yeah.
And the value of the stock went way, way down.
Now's the time to buy.
Yeah, it might be, but I'm not going to make that recommendation. That was not an endorsement. That was not a recommendation.
Yes. What Mark said.
So
what Mark said, okay, guys? Not a recommendation.
But it is exactly as you read it. When the new CEO took over and decided to try to quote unquote legitimize YouTube and operate more along the lines of a television model and started promoting, I don't know if you've noticed, if you go to your recommended feed, you go to YouTube's homepage, signed into your account, you'll see a lot more recommended videos from news sources, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, Bloomberg. You'll see all of them.
Yeah, yeah.
You'll see a lot more of that, and you'll see a lot more content from the networks. You'll see a lot more Jimmy Kimmel or the others,
Yeah.
Whether you've actually watched any of their videos or not. But it's YouTube's attempt to, as you say, legitimize and get rid of, quote unquote, the garbage. But now we're seeing the unintended consequences, because even though some advertisers were bailing over the fact that, I'll just say the name, Alex Jones had a channel, people were watching. And they might start off on one of his videos, but then they see the recommendeds and they go. And it is exactly like you said. They would stay on for hours and hours and hours, and those people aren't doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Now, you said that it only made up 1% of the content on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's still a hell of a lot when you think of all of the days worth of video that gets posted every day. All of the days worth of video that gets posted on YouTube every hour. 1% of 1 billion is still a ton. And it was enough to keep these people engaged. And so when they pulled the plug on those, a lot of people pulled the plug on YouTube, Google, Alphabet, AdSense, the whole thing. I
My
mean, they ended some businesses.
oh, they
There were
ended.
businesses, yeah, there were businesses formed and operating for the sole purpose of creating content to put on YouTube. And they ended those businesses. Now,
So, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
you may not like it. You may not like it. You may not believe it. You may rage and rail against it. But it is a fact that if you're running a business, you have to run that business for profit. And if you don't, you have no business running that business. Just my opinion.
So, I think that on the level of the viewer, YouTube, all of us are friends on the chat and us here, all of us. Not only are we consumers of videos, but we're also participants in that role. And so you're not like I am. I'm not like Katie. Katie's not like Matt Haas, Steve, SDM. It just, we're all very much people, individuals coming to this platform, which is what made it interesting, where you had human beings, individuals doing quirky things on many levels, right? They're sort of focused on the news side, but just people that make like the field that we kind of dig, and musicians and all these things. And by them switching, by they took out the humanity and turned it more into like a little prepackaged TV model, like you're mentioning, and people get, whether a person is consciously aware of it, but for sure subconsciously, it it's bunk. It's you see it and you know when it's not. You know how those corporations will do those puppy videos or whatever videos, and like they look natural, but you know they're not. People aren't stupid. My contention is maybe that stupid in one way, but not stupid in another. People know what they like, whether it's in bad, good taste, or whatever. And because of that, YouTube was a success, at least in bringing people in. And by doing this, I think it affected more than just that whole news thing. It spilled over by changing algorithms. You have all these groups of channels that I felt a total change in my view. I had new people coming in and seeing it for the first time, and then all of a sudden, nothing. It's no secret that the algorithms play the major role in whether you get seen or not, so people try out whatever the heck you're offering.
Right. And but you're okay. The algorithm is there to guide what they think you're going to like based on what you have watched. Now, on its own, left alone that way, that's the way it supposedly worked for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
In that if you watch 7 episodes of Keyboard Cat, you're going to see Keyboard Cat videos being suggested to you,
Right.
and similar videos. You're not going to see a lot of hot rods and welding or sailing ships. But when they tinker with the algorithm to say, okay, he watched Keyboard Cat, but we don't like cats, so we're going to promote
Keyboard dogs.
desktop dogs, and see if we can draw him over here away from Keyboard Cat, because we want to keep the cats away. Cats get enough attention as it is.
Yeah.
Cats are evil. They're here to take over the earth. Now, that may or may not be. But when you start eliminating channels from contention, I'm not saying when you start trashing the channel is still there. But you're saying promote videos with this topic, this topic, this topic, this topic, but exclude this content creator, this provider, this company. Your algorithm no longer works. It's no longer a true reflection of what is actually
In demand.
the zeitgeist, yeah, in demand. It's not a true reflection of what people are wanting to see. And
Now,
you only have to look to the trending tab on YouTube to see that, because you'll have a ton of music videos with millions of views. Then you'll have 3 or 4 videos with maybe 96,000 views or 47,000 views. Okay, now that's great. They maybe make real good content, but you can't tell me that something with 46,000 views is trending when there's something out there on your list with 4.5 million views that you're not putting up there. That's an agenda, and
yeah,
that's messing with the search results.
I'm writing on that you just sort of laid out for us. I've always been so when I started on YouTube in 2006, I got in, started making music and recording little videos, and people would see them and remember it was, I think, a thumbs up, thumbs down. Was it a thumbs up, thumbs down, or hearts? You could
I
one
think
heart,
it was,
2 heart,
wasn't it stars?
stars. It was little
Yeah,
stars.
you
You're right.
gave it 1 to 5 stars or something like that.
So here's the thing. At that point, it had just early on. It had just been purchased by Google, but it took till 2007 or 8 for Google to start that monetization partnership thing. Their mastermind plan. Okay, barring assuming conspiracies. Well, no, assuming conspiracy. Um, they had a great thing where they can mold and cater advertising from around the world using these videos that people would upload. So they create the content. They don't have to create no content. They just have the servers. They get the advertising. It's just an incredible thing. But when advertisers start to demand this, and that, it's such a messy. You have the whole world uploading videos. Back then, communities would rise and form around music, and they do now, but not the same. You could actually message people directly. I don't know if you could probably do that, but it was obscured. You could connect with people in a very, I don't want to say Facebook like way, but there was a closer now it's just rough, it's just straight up video with some connection of the comments and whatnot, but communities were formed and money wasn't even thought of then, and it's become this thing. And the use of manipulation of what one searches, if you go into a library and all the aviation books are stuffed in the medical section because the librarian wants you to read medical, is a bad, it will ultimately destroy itself if you do that. And this is what this is a big library on video, and the human race is adding content to it, and you can't do that without unintended consequences.
Right. Well, I think it's a combination of several things. It is like you say, but what it is, I think, and this is just my opinion, I don't know anything that anybody else knows. I don't know any more than anybody else does. I think it's a combination of a personal agenda as well as an attempt to please everybody all the time. Because what happens when you get that dreaded yellow dollar sign? They say your content is not appropriate for all advertisers. Well, you've said many times that no content is appropriate for all advertisers, and you're
Yeah.
right in that statement. But they're trying to please all advertisers.
Right.
Yeah, Chevy trucks may play an ad on my video or your video. Probably Mattel is not going to play a Barbie ad because it's not appropriate for that advertisement. But they're trying to please all of the advertisers, and television channels and radio stations make this decision every day. They have to decide what advertising they're going to accept and what advertising they're not going to accept. And you know that certain times of the day, you're going to hear advertisements from Chevy and from Ford and from Chrysler.
Mm-hmm.
Certain times of the day, you're going to hear ads for Vermont teddy bears or something like that, because they've studied the demographics and they know when people are listening to certain things. They're not trying to make a DJ change his format, or a talk show host to change his format to please the advertisers. They're telling the advertisers, this is what we got this hour of the day. You want to advertise, this is who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And so it's not that the radio station or the TV station comes from the position of strength, because they have standards they have to meet too.
True.
It's just that they're not attempting to please all advertisers. Because maybe you don't want Chevy trucks advertising on your videos. Maybe you're a Ford person and you want Ford to advertise on your videos. You have no say in this. But YouTube is trying to please Vermont Teddy Bear, as well as Mattel, as well as Whammo and Slinky, as well as Chevy trucks, Ford trucks, and, Craftsman tools.
Let me add
And
something.
they're completely different worlds. Now, you couple that with a personal agenda. I don't like this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and I don't like this topic, that topic, the other topic. You're gone. All the people that were advertising on those channels, their revenue drops.
So let me add something that might be kooky. And I agree with what you just explained. If YouTube had a very much more intricate, for people that are serious about, making their channels grow and specifying, where they sit in the larger picture, what kind of genre and whatnot, they could easily subcategorize and make it more intricate so that the channel can say, this is a, say, woodworking channel. We work with this, and hone it in so that people can self-categorize. They do have a list, but they have self-help and how-to. They have this, and that. And those are broad. And mind you, I know that this is a universe of algorithms. They have enough information to tackle with. But if it's such a big deal, they could put more tools in that respect in the hands of these channels so they can cater. And then when the advertisers come and open up their advertising, Google advertising or whatever, YouTube advertising, they can drop and they could select, their things and have their percentage of what channels, whatever. They can make it so that it's a little bit more user-friendly for the advertiser as well as the content creator. But without the advertiser and content creator, that's bad, right? But without the viewer, you have nothing. And if they mess with it like they have, you end up with these results. They just want to play some sort of demigod,
Well, I'm not willing to say they. I'm willing to say she, because this is coming from the top. She does have a personal agenda, and she said so several times. She has said so herself, that she does have a personal agenda, and she wants to get rid of quote unquote fake news. Let's not forget that one person's fake news is another person's parody. Every time we saw Chevy Chase or Dennis Miller doing Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live, that was fake news.
And parody is very difficult. Okay, just to vibe off of that, it's very difficult. And many people fight, say, let's talk about Facebook for half a second. It's let alone an algorithm, but it's very difficult for people have a conversation on Facebook in the comments and say something quirky or slightly, it could sound slightly off-putting, or it could be totally tongue-in-cheek, and yet the person reading it, you can't account for those variations that you have in front of people in writing, and people get offended, and so you miscommunicate, and bam, you have a total war between people. And that much more with a computer that reads, something serious when it's actually goofy. You can't adjust that. And that complicated, humans are more complicated than that. And it's true. Right. It's not a perfect, never, anything is never perfect, but they screwed up.
Well, yeah, that's the bottom line. They did screw up. And believe me, she's being talked to. Now, I saw a comment over in the chat here on the YouTube side saying, oh, sure, it's the woman's fault. No, it's one specific woman's fault. There are hundreds of women up there in the board. It's
Yeah.
the CEO's fault. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the person who made this decision. But you know what? I'm not going to name names, but there's a couple of male CEOs that I would say the exact same thing about. They have a personal agenda, and they're trying to shape the world consciousness right now.
That's a big problem.
Their image. It is. It is. And the richer you are, the louder your megaphone can be. And we've seen it before. That's gone throughout history.
Yeah.
But when you make policy based on something as subjective as using phraseology like garbage or fake news, when you make policy based on something that's that subjective, you're asking for trouble.
Well, yeah,
you really are. You're asking for trouble.
Yes, there's a whole world of people that use parody. They get thrown into it. Maybe it's a legitimate qualm that a video's putting out. Maybe, and here's the kicker. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm willing to go out on a limb. I personally consume the videos that I want to consume. And what I don't want to consume, I literally effortlessly, even if it's there, particularly if they offer it, meaning the algorithm, the YouTube thing, I'll pass it up like nobody's business. They do sneak in because, it's inevitable. Like you'll see like a puppy dog squishing a ball or stuff or whatever the heck it might be. It's inevitable that you're going to click on. So
and they know that.
yeah. And maybe that's where their gain or thought of gain is. But in the long run, you can't type in a freaking thing in the search like I did the other day. And you have all these videos under a theme. And then you have some strange variation in the middle. And you can see it's not collated in the proper way. Look, this is a big library. I don't have any other way to look at it. It's a big, huge digital library. And the only way that I can reach what I want is by typing it. Sure, they have total right to do whatever disgraceful, messed up algorithm they want because it's their platform. But at the end of the day, it's going to cost them everything. And then what? Well,
and they're seeing that. Now, I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that some of these channels are going to come back, but I would venture to say that some of them might. I venture to say some of them will be rebranded and come back as something else.
Yeah.
But, because these people have too much money invested just to say, well, there went that. Gee, what do you want to do now? Instagram. No, that's not going to make it. But they're seeing that now. And the CEO's being called out. Trust me when I say that Alphabet is having some serious discussions with her right now. Because when a company loses a number with that many zeros behind it, somebody is gone. Somebody's gone. When they have higher ups that can call you up to that carpet and say, what's this? Somebody's gone. Now, I'm not going to say that the CEO's career is over with. I'm not ready to say that at all, and I'm not suggesting it. Again, I don't know anything anybody else, I don't know any more than anybody else does. But Alphabet is not going to take that loss lying down. There will be steps taken.
So,
and I'm not saying they're going to invite that kind of content back. They may never invite that kind of content back, but I think they're going to be a little bit less aggressive about trying to root it out.
Well, okay. So I've always, and I've told you this in the background, and I've always thought that a very reasonable thing would be to have a randomized, because look, we get stuck in these vortexes of the same damn thing, and fine, serve up all this stuff that you want on the screen. Oh, look, dancing koala bears on top of tightrope in Alaska for some reason.
Cool, give me a link.
Well, but so apart from that, how about a category drop down randomizer? So, how to and style randomize so that you can get into some fresh stuff. At least And the reason for that is so we can break away from the same old, same old. People need to be able to feel in this content world that they're not getting freaking, tugged and put in a box. They need to have, they need to feel that their search is true to what they're searching for. And although they may claim that that's the case, on that level, it's kind of weird, man. It's kind of weird. It doesn't match. They messed up. That's how I feel about it. And frankly, I'm not happy with the way my visibility has gone down on my channel. I mean, frankly, I was doing pretty darn good until this whole YouTube apocalypse, ad apocalypse, whatever the heck you call it, happened. And I had nothing to do with that one dude. And by the way, that one dude is sitting rocking it, doing like talk shows and all this stuff. So he did this catastrophic evil thing, but a lot of people suffered for it. And they're trying to manipulate it to cater to, it's just a big mess.
Yeah. A year ago, I would have said I don't see who it benefits. But since the regime change at the upper echelons, and the new regime has made that announcement that, yes, that's what we're doing. We're driving the quote unquote garbage out. I have to back off of that position. I'm forever. You've heard me forever say, show me. Well, they showed me. Okay. Yeah. So now clean it up. Because if you continue, now let's think about this for a minute there. She's talking about adopting the TV model. TV is a dead medium.
Dead.
It's going away.
Dead.
It's going away. Exactly. People don't want to wait a week to see the next episode. They want to go on Netflix and watch it all now. That's why these series release the entire season of a series all at once.
Yeah, it works.
They possibly can. And it works. People stay on it because they'll watch it from start to finish. Then they'll go back and they'll watch it again. Then they'll go back a season, maybe two, maybe from the beginning, depending upon how many series there are. And they'll keep watching. People are tired of appointment television. They don't want to wait for your next episode. TV is dying. And that's why the cable companies are coming up with so many different on-demand options. And download the app so you can watch on your mobile device. Watch TV at your leisure. Anytime you want. Any channel you want. And they're coming up with ways to stay in, or ways to compete with Hulu and Netflix and Amazon TV and Fire Stick and all the rest of them.
Yeah.
Because people's viewing habits are changing. I mean, the only reason people watch local television anymore is to catch the news, mainly for the weather. The weather used to be 5 minutes in a newscast. Now it's 15 minutes of the newscast. Sports is the last 5 minutes. They get the headlines done. They go to a weather teaser, do a few more stories, the weather, a few more stories, sports, end of the show.
Yeah. I mean,
because that's what people want. They want the weather.
See, at the end of the day, that's the ticket. What people want. It's what people want. Obviously, you don't want freaking violent. See, there I am explaining some sort of line, but you don't want freaking assassinations on. You know what? You don't
right.
want.
There has to be some sort of community standards.
Yeah.
You can't have people lighting a stick of dynamite, throwing it in some passing vehicle, saying it's a prank. You can't be doing that.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about having a breakdown of, further the breakdown, not just how to and style. Let's have a maker category. Let's have a wood category. Let's have a metal category. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because as it sits right now, you are classified in the same category with Hot Rod Magazine. And trust me when I say they got a lot more money to put out content than you or I will ever have.
Yeah.
So by allowing more categories, that allows the advertisers to pick and choose where they want to be. And stop trying to please every advertiser out there. There is nothing in anything I have ever made that is going to be attractive to Pampers or Even Flow.
And let me tell you this, no matter who you are as a YouTube channel person doing your thing, whatever your particular eccentricities are in how you do your thing, or whatever little corner of the creative world, fashion, music, whatever you are, we have billions of people on this planet, and there's people that will dig that. But if you manipulate we don't know how many, but what I'm trying to say, it's not so outrageous to allow people to search for a certain thing that matches what they are searching for, and not categorize in a broader scale like that. There should be a little bit more intricate settings, so that, and who knows, maybe they're working on that, but there's something for everybody. But
And
don't push the same stuff.
And give the viewer a little bit more credit than you do, and give the content creator a little bit more credit than you do. And take the stigma off of age restrictions. Don't call it age restrictions anymore. Call it targeted viewership. I don't know if a 12-year-old is going to want to watch anything that I've ever put out. But if they gave me an option to look at my analytics and say, these are my target demographics, I want to go for the 25 to 64 crowd, allow me to age restrict myself without some sort of punishment.
I think there is a category, but it's only for explicit, and you're not explicit.
Exactly. And there's nothing explicit about it. And that's what I'm talking about, removing that stigma.
Yeah.
If my content is made for kids, let me state my content is made for kids. My target demographic is for preschoolers, or my target demographic is for teens from 12 years old to 16 years old, something like that. SpongeBob SquarePants, and I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers here, but SpongeBob SquarePants was basically a kid show. It had a target audience. It was not intended for the 45-year-old intellectual. That's not to say some 45-year-old intellectuals don't want to watch it.
But
that gives the viewer the choice. If you know that this show is targeted towards 6-year-olds, forewarned is forearmed. Okay, fine. Or this channel is targeted towards 6 to 12-year-olds. And let that work with the algorithm. The algorithm knows that I'm 58. It asked my birth date when I signed up for my Google account. The algorithm knows that I'm 58 years old. It's not going to push preschool shows to me. Right now, it could if I happen to click on one because of a clickbait thumbnail.
Yeah.
Now, no, not all content creators are going to abide by that. There are going to be some Adam Henrys who come along and say, yeah, this is for 7-year-olds, and turns out it's, death metal or something like that. There is going to need to be some oversight. But believe me, if a lot of parents start reporting the content as inappropriate for this age, somebody at YouTube is going to take a look at it and go, yeah, no.
Yeah. Now, to give them props on whoever made the idea, decision, or whatnot, the feature, I believe, has been available for the privileged. I hate to say it like that, but yeah, the common YouTube guy, to me, the way it works is that the common YouTube guy or gal that is making some sort of whatever, to me, is just as valid as any. Now, that's not realistic because the more money they bring in, but the big companies had these, I don't know what you would call them, but if you are if you're playing copyright music, they have this thing that searches out and finds the channel that's the culprit and strikes them. What is that called?
I want to say it's DMCA, but it may be something else.
Okay,
or DCMA.
Yes.
God, I can't remember.
So that sort of thing, they've provided something like that, or content identification, copyright, whatever.
Content ID, right.
They have now offered that to all of us. So lo and behold, we now can go over, and Matt Haas of Awesome Wood Things on his YouTube, Everything YouTube uh, show on Mondays or Tuesday, Mondays or
Mondays. It's
on
Monday
Monday.
afternoons. Yeah.
He mentioned that feature. I went in and I had looked at it before and saw that I had some people that had stolen my content. I had 4 people, 2 with the same video all the way back to front, just recopied it, and in the copyright on, they stole it from me, uploaded it, and on their thing where it says copyright license, it says common. They said common for everybody to use.
Mm-hmm.
So they took it from me, and then they said, oh, it's in common use, like, and
Yeah, public domain. Yeah.
public to, I freaking pressed the button to remove it now. It lasted like 24 hours, and they pulled both of them down. I have 2 more left there, but I wanted to see how these 2 work because they were the biggest offenders.
Mm-hmm.
And so I give kudos to whoever thought of that within the YouTube, because that's such a good thing, because now it gives us power to defend our thing.
And make no mistake, I am a serious hawk on that. You can ask a few content creators. I will private message the bejeebers out of them until they notice that somebody has swiped their stuff. And I will put it up in as many places as I can. I'm a serious hawk on that. But I'm a serious hawk on copyright anyway. I'm the same way with software piracy. I don't like it. To me, theft is theft.
Yeah.
And but yeah, if you own the copyright to something, they have a mechanism in place for you to claim that copyright, and you decide what happens. Do they pull it down? Do you get the revenue from it? Do you let it stay up? Do you shut them down? What happens? You have the final say in that.
Yeah.
Well, they have the final say, but your input is what they're going to follow 99 times out of 100.
Right.
But the problem with that is you have to be your own police officer and cruise around the internet. I mean, how did you find those videos? And you found 4. How many more are out there that you don't know about that you haven't stumbled across? What I've thought that they should always be able to, that what they should have on there is they should have a report button that allows me, if I'm cruising around and I see one of your videos, I should be able to report it. They look at it, they contact you through YouTube and say, we had a report that your video is on this channel. Is this your content? If so, claim it. But we can't do that. You can only report it if it's yours.
Yeah, these people have a logistics nightmare on their hands, because you're talking about the world on their site, and there's no way they could do what they're doing. But even that, there's no way, unless you shut down, the algorithm is so tight. Human beings are so creative. We're so creative that we have gotten to a point in life, mind you, the journey continues long after we're gone. But to this point where we have everything from frickin' pyramids to aqueducts to castles to stories to mathematics, space shuttles, music, guitars, buildings, just everything, just physics, videos, computers, it just goes on and on and on. We're so dynamic, and we hang on the shoulders of generations.
Right.
They can't, there's no way, whatever they do, and if they don't have that wisdom to do, and I'm sure some of them do, and they argue this in their staff meetings or whatever the heck, but if that principle isn't held close to the heart, in your journey, your insult to humanity and to your users it's going to show through, maybe not eloquently, or uneloquently like I'm saying it, but people have an internal reaction when they see something that they don't dig, and they'll just walk away from it or not participate, or any number of things. So,
and if there's a mechanism to complain about it, a lot of them will. But then again, you can't account for personalities, because you and I both know that there are people out there looking for something to complain about.
That is true too.
If you handed them $10, they'd be cheesed off it wasn't a 20. And if you handed them 20, they'd be cheesed it wasn't 50.
Yeah.
Yeah. As my my grandmother used to say, they'd complain if they were hung with a new rope. You know, what that meant, I have no idea, but it sounded good. And with a Texan accent, it sounds even better. So, but you know, I don't know. I just think that if there was an easier way to report obvious violations and, you know, of stolen content, and notify the content creator, let them be the judge. No, that's not mine. Guy made a mistake. Okay, fine. You know,
Yeah.
they have the people to do that. You know, they have the people to forward a message, because that at least, and a person doesn't even have to do it. It can be all computerized. This belongs to this channel, and you put in a link to the channel it belongs to. They send a message to that channel's owner at the email address provided. It's all automated. Then that way you're alerted to it. You know it's out there, and you can go complain and say, take it down. But if you don't know it, and there's 30 more copies of your skull chair video out there that you don't know about, you're flying blind.
Yeah.
You know.
I guess we've covered basically a good amount of this. There's so much more to say, but as far as I'm concerned, I understand.
I get riled. I get real riled about things like this.
Well, I've seen a dramatic reduction in my daily views. I had 8,000 every 24 hours, 9,000 every 48 hours. And that was nothing compared to what you see out there, but it made a big difference for me.
Sure.
Something happened with the algorithm, which we all know. And then I was thrown into the Matrix waiting room at the train station, where the train never would come, but there was no in or out for Neo. You're just stuck there. And it's, so I'm kind of saying that they should allow the individual to make their viewing habits and their searching more transparently what they're looking for. They should allow as opposed to restraining, because you're going to tee off more people, and it may not tee off a certain amount of people, but eventually it's going to encompass more and more people, because that can't be sustainable like that without pissing people off. So yeah, I love the site. I've been there since 2006. So you know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah, I'm fairly, I guess that I'm the newcomer, because I started in 2010 and there was no monetization, and that's not what I was doing with it. I wasn't out to make any kind of a thing. I didn't know that YouTube fame was a thing, and I'm still not looking for YouTube fame. You know, above all, what I'm trying to do is help folks who are just getting started in a certain genre, you know, and I'm just trying to help folks out, and I hope I'm doing an okay job at it. But when they made it a business and it became competitive, some people shot to the top and some people got left in the middle. We are in a very, very competitive genre, and that's why I agree with you about maybe breaking down the subcategories a little bit more. Because, you know, if one guy is, he wants to focus on automobile upholstery, let's say, he's not interested in all the knife making videos. He's not interested in the coffee grinder restoration videos. He's not interested in the YouTubers react to 1956 cigarette commercials. He's not interested in that. He's interested in what he's interested in.
yeah.
So let him see that. But I also like your idea of the randomize button, where occasionally you can go to the hope page and you can just hit randomize and show me what's up there.
Yeah, there's actual sites outside of YouTube. I found one site that did that, but I think they did that for their own videos. So yeah, they call it random, but they keep getting. So that's an example of you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
you type in randomize YouTube video or something like that, and then you go into the site and you keep randomizing, and you start realizing that it's all their same videos, and it's a smart. That's why humans are so freaking awesome and yet
Mm-hmm.
evil. But
Yeah.
it's awesome because they found a solution.
Well, every system you come up with, somebody is going to find an exploit, and that is a business, is trying to shut down the exploiters. You know, everywhere you leak, somebody's going to hang a bucket, and they're trying to plug all the holes they can. Believe me. So, but what I found, what works real well, I don't know if you use Google Chrome as a browser,
Yeah.
open up incognito window and go to YouTube's homepage that way. Because you don't sign into any accounts when you go incognito. And go to YouTube's homepage that way. Then if you see something cool that you want to subscribe to or whatever, copy the link, go over to a regular window, paste it in, and go. So there's ways to do it. You just have to, play around with it a little bit.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be. Look, there's also the thing we've talked about, and we kind of like in general agree on basic standards anyhow, you and I and a lot of us, out here. It shouldn't be that difficult too. It should be transparent, but at the same time, we have talked about the fact that not everybody that makes a resin-based vase with accompanying tray, 5 million videos of such said variety, can show up on the first page of YouTube.
No,
we have
they
that
can't.
issue.
They just can't. And you know what? We are in such a competitive niche within YouTube. I mean, the entire maker community only makes a very tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of all the YouTube content out there. The majority of it's going to be gamers. It's going to be music. It's going to be entertainment folks who are big. There are people, we know people with 3 million viewers, or excuse me, 3 million subscribers that have never really been invited to any of the big YouTube events. I mean, you have not seen Bobby Duke or Jimmy DiResta in the YouTube Rewind at the end of the year. Not once.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an overlooked area that, they love the money, and they want that revenue, and they want the viewers to keep coming back. But just an occasional nod or acknowledgement to this community within YouTube sphere would be an occasional nice thing. But we are such a small niche that is so heavily saturated. It's real easy to be just one more fish in a huge pond.
But so I agree with you, but can't that apply to, you name it, music, and from painting, tablet painting, unboxing, reviews? This doesn't it compound? I mean, we're talking about, I don't know how many millions of people or more on YouTube. It's there's nowhere. You'd have to be some sort of space alien monkey that sits upside down, hanging from the ceiling, reading poetry in German, in reverse, with Enya playing in the background while eating ice cream. It would have to be, and then there, I am the unique human being on YouTube.
Right, but then you're going to get a copyright strike from Enya.
You're right.
So you can't even do that, man.
Dang it. You killed the dream, man. You killed the dream.
Somebody's got to keep us grounded.
So folks, there's more to this. It's an article that came out, and it was pretty powerful. We did read through it, and then we gave you our thoughts. I think we've covered it for today as far as that topic. Yeah. Or do you have?
We covered it and then some. Behind the scenes, Eloy and I talk about this really a lot because it's something that we are really into, and because we basically give a damn.
Yeah.
We're both trying to make content that you, the viewer, really genuinely want to watch, and which is why we ask forever. Send us a message, contact us, hit our website, leave us some feedback, leave a comment. We genuinely care. And if we're making something that you don't want to see, we need to know that. If we're making something that you do want to see, we need to know that. If there's something that you want to see that we're not doing, let us know, because we genuinely care. But beyond that, we're just a couple of small people in a huge, huge ocean. And we know we have realistic expectations. We value every single person who's listening to us now and who's watching us now on YouTube. And we want to keep making content that you want to see. And if some people would just remember that and not focus so much on the dollar and focus so much on the numbers, I think that everybody would win. I know that's a pie in the sky dream, and it's not going to happen because very few people do this for love. Most of them are doing it for money. And I know that that's the case, but just know that we genuinely care. So when we see something like this happening, what the changes in algorithms or something like that, yeah, we're going to talk about it. We talk about this forever, and I could go on for another 3 hours, but none of us have that time.
Well,
So,
Mark, that's very, just I could say perfectly said. And one thing that I'll say to that from my end is that the sentiment that you put forth, I think it's all about where the heart, where the action comes from, and if things start from a good place, and that you express that perfectly. And I think so. I think that that's actually, if people tended to think in those terms, it would be a better world. But pie in the sky, perhaps, because as soon as I say that, we flip the channel and you see, like, I don't know, Eskimos battling Chewbacca with spears.
I'd pay good money to see that.
Yeah, me too.
I want to see Chewbacca fighting the Eskimos. Now watch, we're going to get, never mind. We're such a small thing, and we can afford to, I won't say we can afford to say what we want, but we have a little bit more leeway than a lot of others because we're so small. We're not monetized. So,
Right.
if they come and hit us with that yellow coin, we're like, what coin?
Yeah.
So this is all just kind of off the top of the head, and we didn't really talk about anything we wanted to talk about, but it's something near and dear to our hearts, which is why I get so riled.
Oh yeah. So do we wrap up, or do we hit some this day in history before we sail into the sunset?
I'm going to leave that up to you.
All right, I'd like to hear a couple of this day in history. I mean,
okay. All right. Well, here's a couple of here's one talking about, since I put on my altruistic hat and was playing nice and being looking out for
Yoda.
my brother and everything else.
Yeah.
Ooh, good eyes you have. This goes out on May 21st, next week.
Yeah.
I'll have to cut that part out when I do the edit because it is my edit. So May 21st, 1881, Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that's pretty ding dong big. When you look at it, that's 238 years old.
18 what?
1881.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. That's over 230 years old, not quite 240 years old. That's a success story right there. Let's see. I had a couple more in here. And, you'll like this. Knowing the genre that you like.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to love this. May 21st, 1908. The first horror movie, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, premiered in Chicago.
Oh, wow. It was a silent movie.
It was a silent movie. It was 1908. It was a single reel film, 16 minutes. Basically, there was a play that they kind of whittled down to get into one single reel of film. They used the play cast and everything, the play sets and everything, but they filmed it with the cards, the dialogue cards that popped up. And
Amazing.
it was released in 1908.
Hey, let me ask you this. They already had the gramophone.
Right.
Couldn't they have earlier? Because it's such an odd thing.
It came down to being able to outfit enough theaters and a way to synchronize the record with the film. So you had the sound playing at the same time the person's lips were moving. So it didn't look like it was being dubbed from another language.
But I mean, it would have been good. Okay, I don't want to but this is one of those trampled underfoot things that wouldn't it have been good that, so barring dialogue, they could have at least had like the orator and saying, and in this scene, you see Mr. Jekyll, walking up, or Dr. Which one was it? Dr. Jekyll? Dr.
Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, yeah.
You see Dr. Jekyll walking in, but he's slowly transforming. At least some sort of, and even if you're nudged off the scene by a few seconds either way, you could still sort of, and you have some audio and people, I don't know, man. I think that there was a couple of decades there where we could have had audio.
Yeah, well, but you got to remember that the first talkies came out in, let's see, that was 1908, so it was only about 12 years until they developed the technology and were able to distribute the technology, because we weren't talking about just being able to synchronize a soundtrack with a film. We also had to have the theaters out there that could play it.
That's right.
So, you could send out all the TV signals you wanted, but if nobody had a TV set, you're kind of wasting your time.
I see.
So it was getting it all together. And then I want to say it was The Jazz Singer was the first sound movie. I may be wrong on that.
Or worst case scenario, they could have hired a dude to read out the script. You know what I'm saying? At the theater, they could have done that.
They did do that.
Oh,
they did do that. They tried a bunch of things like that.
I didn't know that. Now that's bad to the bone. Could you say it a little louder, Bob?
Yeah, really. Yes, it was The Jazz Singer in 1927. So it was 19 years before they got the technology developed. But the first feature-length sound talking movie was The Jazz Singer, starring Al Jolson in 1927.
1927.
And they did it by synchronizing a record to the film.
Incredible. So. My grandfather then, therefore, was born in an era where movies had no audio. He was born in 1911. So during that time, no audio.
Yeah, my grandmother was 7 years old when The Jazz Singer came out. Wow. Oh, man.
That's got to be crazy, dude. Just imagine.
Yeah.
Well, continue. I'm sorry.
Also today, May 21st, 1927. Speaking of 1927, Charles Lindbergh, flying the Spirit of St. Louis, landed in Paris after the first solo air flight across the Atlantic.
That is crazy.
Yep. Today was the day he landed in Paris after completing it.
1927.
Uh-huh. There was another one back here that was related to that. Because it was.
How long did it? No, how long did it take him?
30-something hours.
That's not bad. I mean, it sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, 30-something hours. I mean, did he fall asleep at all?
Yeah, he nodded off a couple times. Okay, here it is. The same day, 1932, Amelia Earhart flew across the Atlantic and became the first solo woman to fly across the Atlantic.
Amazing.
It took her 17 hours.
Holy smokes! Across the to where? Where'd she land?
She landed in Ireland. She landed in Londonderry, Northern Ireland.
And it took her 17. What? No.
17 hours.
No,
Well,
wait. Huh?
and she flew a much faster plane. It was, even though it was only 5 years later, aircraft aviation technology was being improved on by leaps and bounds.
But dude, in 17, how long does it take to? No, like 9 hours.
Well, it depends on which way you're flying.
It can't be 6 hours, dude. From
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Yeah.
you live. I'm sorry, you live on the other. It makes a big difference because you're in Oregon and I'm in Miami. So
Right.
It makes a big, yeah. So
I flew from Newark, New Jersey to Germany, so I was flying against the Earth's rotation. The Earth was rotating toward me as I was flying.
right.
No, that's backwards. I was flying with the Earth's rotation, and it took about 8 hours to fly into Frankfurt, Germany. It took about 6.5 hours to fly back from Germany.
That's not that. I mean, that's pretty freaking quick, man. Wow.
But we also fly 500 to 600 miles an hour, where they were flying 300, or she was flying about 300.
And much lower, probably.
A much lower altitude, because she didn't have a pressurized cabin. She didn't have oxygen. Well, she may have had oxygen, but she didn't have a pressurized cabin.
That is insane, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
cool.
But yeah, it was on the same day, 5 years apart, Charles Lindbergh and Amelia Earhart, and that was done on purpose. She timed it that way on purpose.
To what?
To commemorate the day Lindbergh did it, and now I did it.
Right.
On the same day, just
in my mind, I'm still picturing her sitting up there. It's freezing and the weather, and maybe above the clouds. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, probably at about the same level, because again, they didn't have the pressurized cabin. So probably about the same level. Maybe, I don't know if they went up to 20,000 feet. So maybe not. I'm not sure.
So we're talking prior to commercial. We're talking prior to commercial flights and all that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I know.
So, all right.
Let's see. Today, May 21st, 1980, Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, opened in cinemas in the UK and North America.
I remember it.
I didn't realize it was 1980. For some reason, I was thinking it was 1982. I don't know why I was thinking 82. But yeah, The Empire Strikes Back.
I just want to say this about that. I remember it. I remember I was a little kid, because in 1980 I was 5.
Mm-hmm.
By the middle of the decade, I was 10. Think about that. In 1980, I was sitting on my bed in my room, and my mom brought back McDonald's, and they had a McDonald's Star Wars Empire Strikes Back full full thing, like of the cold planet, whatever it was called, and you could Hoth, and you could put the little, every time you could pull the little stickers, and you could put them on and create this whole scenery, and then you could get free food, and it's what an impression for a little kid to see that. It was a big deal for me, and I went to see it in the movies.
I was 19.
Wow.
I was 16 when the first Star Wars came out. So
think about that, Mark. I mean, honestly, isn't that?
Yeah.
You were 19 years old.
I was 19 years old. I was that was about the time I tried to go into the Army the first time, and I was underweight. I couldn't join. The recruiter told me to go home, put some bricks in my pocket. Let's see. May 21st, 1983. David Bowie's Let's Dance went to #1.
And I remember that.
The single. Little bit of musical trivia, call back to a couple weeks ago. Little bit of musical trivia. The guitar on that entire album
Yes,
was
I
played
know it.
by Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yep. Yep.
To include that little short guitar outro at the end of the single, Let's Dance. That was Stevie Ray playing.
Yep. And I'll just say that I remember it clearly because every Saturday morning I would wake up, put on the cartoons, and just as the cartoons were finishing right about noon, Casey Kasem, his top 10 or top 20, I forget what top
American Top 40 with Casey Kasem.
And guess who would pop up? We had Michael Jackson, we had Let's Dance. Boy, I'd have to think of them, but we had all those. And I remember listening to that song and saying, "Oh, that's cool," because it's got the voices climbing up like back in the 50s. Dun, 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 dun. It's got some of that, but we can get into that later. I love that song. I love that song. Oh,
I don't know, man. That was the very end of the disco era. And the fact there were some that said that when David Bowie went disco, that signaled the end of it. So, what can you say? Let's see. We'll jump over to music real quick since I started into that one. That kind of ends the today in history thing as far as regular history. Let's go into the music history. Today, May 21st, 1955, Chuck Berry recorded his first single, Maybelline.
Oh, wow.
Maybelline, why can't you be true?
Oh, Maybelline, why can't you be true?
And then 1964, the Drifters recorded Under the Boardwalk.
Beautiful.
I love it. One of my favorites.
Yeah, beautiful song.
One of my favorites. It's kind of slim pickings from here on out.
Was it when the tar when the tar something?
That's Up on the Roof.
Oh, that's Up on the Roof.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. There's a similar vibe to them, by the way.
Very similar.
Yeah. Up on the roof. Yeah. Up on the roof.
Right.
Yeah.
Also in 1981, on a serious downer, reggae star Bob Marley was buried with state honors in St. Anne's, Jamaica.
Okay. Yeah.
May 21st, 1981.
Wow.
And let's see. 1983 also, Little Red Corvette went to #6 in the U.S., giving Prince his first top 10 hit on the Hot 100. And the video is the first by a black artist to go in hot rotation on MTV.
Wow.
Yeah.
Little Red Corvette. He was a pretty talented dude and songwriter, guitarist, just everything.
Okay, I'm going to throw a couple out here, and all of these are so old that some of our audience may not even remember it. On this day, May 21st, 1977, Fleetwood Mac's Rumors album took over the #1 spot in the U.S. from the Eagles Hotel California.
Oh, wow.
2 records you had to own when I was in high school or you were nobody.
They're both striking albums.
Yeah.
Both of them really are.
Major hits and huge blockbusting sellers too.
I mean, there's not really anything on that Rumors album that I can't sit through and actually enjoy. And the same with the Hotel California. It's just got a beautiful, just high quality stuff. Those are 2 great albums.
Yep. This one, some people are going to go, who? But folks of my age will get it, will remember it. May 21st, 1992. Bette Midler was Johnny Carson's last guest on The Tonight Show.
Oh,
it was his final show. His final show was the following night, and he didn't have any guests. He just did a retrospective.
Wow.
And I don't know, some of you may remember this, but she serenaded him with "One for My Baby" and "One More for the Road." And there
Beautiful.
wasn't a dry eye in the house. I'm telling you. Not long after that song, he ended the show, and that was it. And it was the end of an era. May
Truly,
21st, 1992.
it truly was. Um, I grew up watching that as a little kid, and watching his plaid jackets and go.
Get louder and louder and louder.
Yeah.
And that's the kicker. See, there's something that unites, and that's what I mean when I say it's an end of an era. You said you grew up watching him as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So did I.
He had more dark hair on his head. Or
Yeah, and it was in black and white, but I remember watching him too. You
amazing.
know, as a kid, if I, couldn't get to sleep or something like that, or if mom and dad would let me stay up, usually on Friday night, I would watch at least the opening monologue and listen to the jokes. Sometimes, I think the first episode I ever watched all of, I remember Gladys Knight and the Pips were the musical guests. And it was in the early 70s, 71, 72, something like that.
Wow,
So I was
dude.
10 or 11 years old. But I stayed up until like 1 in the morning and watched it, because at that time, he was on for an hour and a half. So then he shrunk it down to a 1 hour show.
I do want to say that. So you mentioned that we both grew up watching that. So these are the things that bind cultures together, generations together, similarities, folk tales that are passed on, things that we watch like TV. We had all these things, and we have enough reference. We have so many reference points that
Sure.
there's this unification, right? Regardless of where you're at in the country, it's just a thing. There is, and I don't mean to cut into I just want to say this because it popped into my head. There is the generation that I belong to, which ends at 1979, and it goes back, and some estimates nudge it slightly, but one of the is from 1979 all the way back to 1961 is Generation X. What
Right.
generation do you fall?
It depends on who you listen to. Some people say I'm one of the very last of the baby boomers. Some folks say no, I'm the very beginning of the Generation X. I still call myself Generation Uses Correct Spelling and Punctuation in text messages, because I do. But I don't know. I'm whatever folks want to call me.
I'm with you. Like, it's not like,
my
hey,
world doesn't really revolve around it.
right, hey, I'm Generation X. Watch out, buddy. But it's weird that there's that huge, and then the baby boomers go back. Whatever. Long story
Right
short,
after World War II, yeah.
yeah. Which lasted till the beginning of the 60s. So I guess it's about the same
Well, yeah, the baby
spacing.
boom, kind of, yeah. Because you went from World War II, you had a few years, and then Korea, then it came out, and what have you.
Yeah.
So, but there was a huge increase in population after World War II. Of course there were. Is anybody surprised?
Well,
But 5 years of war is a long time.
that's right.
And it wasn't like they went for a year and came home. They were there for the duration.
Yeah.
Gone.
And they probably came back and said, boy, did I miss this.
That's it. And that was just the food. So,
Oh,
but yeah, you're right. There are certain things, and I mean, and this will show you another difference in the generations, man. Because we took that one late night talk show, The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson, and that covered my generation and yours up until 1992.
Yeah.
So there was that common thread from 60. I want to say 62 is when he started. From 62 to 92, so 30 years. That TV show was on.
Amazing.
And when you think about all the guests that were there, everybody from literal clowns like Red Skelton and Groucho Marx, and George Goebel, Jerry Lewis, George Carlin, David Letterman got his start there. Jay Leno got his start there. Gallagher. I mean, just name the comedian.
Burt
Everybody,
Reynolds.
everybody from clowns to serious actors. Charlton Heston, Richard Burton, Elizabeth Taylor were on that show.
Dean
Then you
Martin.
get into the intellectuals like Carl Sagan, and William F. Buckley. Um, Everybody, I mean, presidents were on that show.
It's just incredible.
And there is a show now that has spanned almost as long a time span. We're looking at 27 years right now.
What is it the Simpsons?
The Simpsons.
Oh, I got it right.
And just as many. And it's funny because probably the same people have been on The Simpsons. Yeah, as a guest voice or something.
But there was something special about that. I know that we get into this, but I just, there was something special about, I guess it felt cozy, where you turn on the channel and you weren't thinking of these terms, but everybody was watching the same three or 4 different things. And most people would go and watch Johnny Carson, really, unless you wanted to see some other crap that was crap, basically, on it. It was such a cozy thing. And now it's wild and mad.
It was normal. It was a sense of no matter what you did over the course of the day and how crazy anything was, that was something that everybody could talk about the next day.
Yeah.
Oh man, did you see such and such on Carson last night? Yeah, I did. That was funny as heck, or whatever, But yeah, I don't know.
Nice.
So, and I would be remiss as we go to press today. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the passing of Tim Conway today.
Oh, I didn't know. Wow.
Talking about serious clown. You only have to go on YouTube, and I encourage you to do it. Yeah, he passed away this morning at age 85.
Oh, wow.
You only have to go to YouTube and look for Tim Conway Elephant Story or Carol Burnett Elephant Story.
Yeah.
And every time I watch that video, I guarantee you, and I remember when that episode came out, I was crying with laughter then. I sent it to my cousin in North Carolina earlier today, and I had tears rolling down my cheeks today. That man was an absolute comic genius and will be sorely missed.
Oh, yeah. I grew up watching either the reruns, because those Carol Burnett show, we talked about this one time, and we kind of, because I watched them growing up. Were they reruns in the mid 70s up through the 80s?
Yeah, they came out with a syndicated show that were a bunch of reruns during that time, but that was right at the tail end of the show.
Okay.
Too. So a lot of that, it did repeat for a couple of seasons, the full show.
Yeah.
But then they stopped it, and then they came out with a syndicated show called Carol Burnett and Friends, which was a highly, highly edited version of the show.
Okay.
It was only a half hour long, so they'd put like a couple of skits together, and that was it.
Yeah.
But that Elephant Story, if you ever need to get rid of some aggression, or you ever need to just sit down and have a good laugh, the Elephant Story is the one. God bless you, Tim.
All right, guys. So, well, we had a very interesting, entertaining, and we got into it. Yeah, episode.
And I'm sorry for being late. Thank you for sticking with us. We've still got a few people watching. Thank you for hanging with us in the chat there. Sorry for the delay earlier. I know it was way late, way past everybody's bedtime on a school night. But, technical difficulties. Life is what happens while you're busy making other plans.
That's right. John Lennon, beautiful boy.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we'll catch you next time. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for hanging out with us. We'll see you next Tuesday. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty.